Hello and welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB. I got my co-host, producer extraordinaire, hat connoisseur, background in business, master of the grills, lover of
Hopefully
the
one day.
frames, and
Ooh, I
all
need some new
around
ones.
one of the best people that we all know. If you listen to this podcast, it's Jody. What's up, Joe?
What's good, man? I mean, I feel like more weekends I get back to the crib after work and I'm like, man, I miss some football. But today, not so much. I don't think I missed much. I did go back and watch a couple of games for sure. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I feel like there was some snoozers out there, and that's something else.
Yeah, I mean there
Looking like
were.
the NCAA scores out there.
Yeah. This week was for sure. I think we could call it blowout Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean the Dolphins won by 50, the Chiefs won by 31,
Yeah.
the Bills won by 34, the Browns won by 24, the Texans won by 20, the Lions won
Crazy.
by 14. So yeah, it became blowout city pretty quick. And thank goodness for NFL Plus, huh? For both
Yeah,
of
that's
us,
for sure.
that's really how we keep up. If you're an NFL fan and you actually do want to watch all the games, highly recommend getting a
Yeah,
subscription to that.
that's for sure.
That's how we pretty much are able to keep up, even if we miss games and or if we're just wanting to go back and watch things. I mean, they have every
Yeah,
game on there.
I
That's
was
how
gonna
we
say
get the
that's
all
how
22 film.
that and that's how I get my Strahan Munoz people. I go back and just sit there and watch them. I don't have to focus on the game. I just get to watch people.
Yeah.
I
No,
feel like
it's
I'm back in
definitely
the lab in high school, just sitting there watching. Like, what is this guy gonna do on this play?
Yeah. It's definitely a worthwhile venture to get for the season if you're someone who loves the NFL. But as we're rolling here, and you may see my eyes wander up every so often because I've got it on. We've got Raiders Steelers here on Sunday Night Football. As it currently stands, that game is 10-7. About 3 minutes to go before the half. The Steelers are winning, so we'll keep an eye on that and make sure we update that as it goes. But yeah, I think in terms of starting where we're at today, I guess I got to give you an update on the team, on the squad.
Yep. Let's hear it.
Not a good one this week.
Oh,
Took another L. We're 3-2 now.
that drives must have been a pain though, for sure. That doesn't help much. I'm sure.
No,
I mean, they had the same thing, but it's traveling that
yeah,
long is just not fun.
and honestly, the Saturday game for high school is not my
Oh, it was a
favorite.
Saturday.
It was a Saturday game.
Oh,
So it's because the turnaround is always so quick, and
yeah.
the Saturday playing at 1:00 on the Saturday, it makes it feel like
Ooh, and the
Pop Warner
heat.
football.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. We actually started off pretty well. Got an interception on defense, scored, and got the 2-point on offense. We're up 8-0.
Nice.
With about 5.5 minutes left in the half, we were up 8-7. And believe it or not, we went into halftime down 35-8. We gave up 28 points, including not one, but 2 pick sixes in a 5.5 minute span. It was absolutely brutal.
That's tough.
The onslaught, just absolute snowball. And wasn't much we could do as coaches to stop it. That's always kind of the helpless feeling. So we're working on it. We got bye week this week, which I think was good for us.
Get everything going.
Yeah. And then we start district play the next week. And those are the games that really matter in terms of getting to the playoffs. So we're not in a terrible spot, but we did have a rough week. We ended up losing the game. I think it was 56-24.
Okay.
So
Not too bad, but
didn't play great in the second half either. We kind of started off the second half slow, and it just was a tough day all around for the Morton football team. But we get a week off. We get a week to regroup. We'll be fine. And excited for district. Yeah, excited for district play. So, but hopping onto the league here. I mean, we talked about it. Blowout City today. I did a little bit of research because I was like, man, was this just like one of the worst days in the NFL in terms of blowouts? And it wasn't. It was close. In the last 100 years of the NFL, there's been 3 weekends where there were 6 games decided by 21 points or more in that same weekend.
Dang.
Never more than 6. It's only been 3 where it was 6. The most recent time that happened was actually 2021. And then, believe it or not, this weekend, it was only 4 games that were 21 points or more. The Texans won by 20. The Lions won by 14. Yeah, so we almost got 6 of them. The Seahawks at one point were winning by 17.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they might kind of get over that edge, but it didn't happen. Now, we still have 3 games left. So if tonight's Sunday Night Football game or one or both of the Monday night games end in blowouts of 21+, then we would have a historic weekend of blowouts. Yeah. But we're not quite there yet. So, yeah, I mean, it was a rough day, honestly, for football fans. Not fun to watch blowouts.
No, I was sitting there at the gym watching the Chiefs game, and I was like, bro, this game's already over. Like, the Bears are doing whatever, and you know, I was like, I can't believe I'm watching this one right now, let alone when I saw that Broncos score after work, 50 points. I was like, bro, this is not anything special. Like, I was okay missing both of those, although I watched most of that Chiefs game.
Yeah, I mean, the the funny part and the thing that you saw going around everywhere was, well, the Bears and Broncos play each other next week, so one of those teams is going to get a win.
I mean, they could tie. Realistically, it's a possibility, but
one of those teams will get a get right game, I guess. Man, I mean, not good. And we'll talk about both those teams in a little bit. I know in our segments, but if you'll allow me the podium, Joe,
of course,
I would just like to go on a Derek Carr rant right now.
Let's hear about
That's okay with the audience and everyone being with me here. So Derek Carr, all right. I got a lot of Raiders fans who are friends in my life. I don't know why, but I've got plenty of them, Raiders fans. And I've heard a lot of a lot of Raiders fans just absolutely hate Derek Carr.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, I don't understand it. I don't understand the hate. Now, am I going to sit here and argue and tell you that Derek Carr is elite? No. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that. But I'm tired of the disrespect I've had to read from these people about Derek Carr. All right? I mean, he's a 4-time Pro Bowler.
Okay.
He finished 3rd in MVP voting one year. He's thrown for 4,000 yards 4 different times. He has 28 career comeback wins and 33 career game-winning drives, which is good for 16th all-time, by the way, in terms of quarterbacks. One of the most important QB stats is the career game-winning drives. And he's 16th. He's got 33 of them.
I was going to say, typical Sunday night, Tom Brady's driving the field, and that stat always pops up. So, yeah, that makes sense.
And then his career touchdown to interception ratio is 218 to 101. All right.
Not bad.
He had the Saints at 2-0 and up 17-0 on the road today before he got hurt.
Dang.
They were on the path to being 3-0. And then he got hurt. He has by the way, he has an injured shoulder. It looks like it's an AC joint sprain, which I know all too well. My AC joint right here.
I was going to say if you had that one.
Not a fun one. It's essentially what they call a separated shoulder. Landed on it pretty tough. Seems like
throwing
he can
or
miss some
non-throwing?
I actually didn't notice. I think it was the non-throwing, but I could be wrong on that. We'd have to look at that one. But looks like he's going to miss at least a little bit of time. Jameis Winston was not horrible in Derek Carr's absence today. However, the game completely changed when Derek Carr got hurt. The Packers end up winning that game 18-17.
Yeah.
And I think everything changing for the Saints when he went out today was indicative of how much he meant to that team.
Yeah.
And I feel as though Raiders fans have disrespected Derek Carr on his way out the door. Did he win a playoff game for the Raiders? No. But I have a hard time believing that is his fault when the Raiders have not had a top 20 defense in the last 20 years. They have been a bottom third defensive team for 20 straight seasons. That is embarrassing. And it is not Derek Carr's fault.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason why he had to have so many comeback wins. and the argument that I have been presented was, well, he never came through in the clutch for us. And then I was giving up many examples, the fumble through the back of the end zone, the throwing short of the end zone against the Bengals in the playoff game, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And my counter to that to you all, if any of you out there are on this bandwagon of Derek Carr sucks, my counter to you would be this. Is it fair to him to have been put in that position by his defense so many times to then expect him to be 100% in those situations?
Yeah.
Probably not. Not even Tom Brady, the GOAT, is 100% in those situations.
Yeah.
It may feel like he is, but he's not. And, I think Derek Carr having 33 game-winning career drives says a lot. For as many of the moments that you could say he didn't get it done, he got it done a lot more. And I think he's really good for the Saints. And I think anybody out here who's spewing this Derek Carr is not a good quarterback.
No slander for the man out here.
No, we're not taking it on this podcast. Derek Carr, again, not elite. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying he's in the middle tier of NFL quarterbacks. If you would like to call him mid, that doesn't bother me. But I'm just saying he is, at the very least, he is mid.
Yeah. No, I get that. I will say.
And that also reminds me that next week they're coming back. The QB tiers are back, baby. The first quarter QB tiers will be back. So in case you were wondering exactly where I have Derek Carr, tune in next week. That's our advertisement for next week's show.
I will say, too, another thing, like, what weapons did my guy really have? His best receiver during this time frame, I'm pretty sure, was Hunter Renfrow, who was running the Wes Welker routes. Just get the ball out.
Darren Waller was good. Darren Waller was good
he did have
for a while. He did have some years where he was really hurt. He had Devontae last year for the 1 year.
And then they benched the guy, though.
Yeah, his weapons weren't horrible. I don't think we could say that, but he also did not ever have. Yeah, he never had like the best skill group in the league. No. So yeah, and there were a couple years, or especially earlier in his career, the O-lines he played in front of, or who played in front of him.
Yeah,
couldn't protect him. So
yeah.
I say good for Derek Carr that he's moved on and he's found a better place to where fans maybe will appreciate him. And maybe there are Raiders fans out there that do appreciate Derek Carr, and to those I say amen. To the ones that I know who seem to universally hate him, I just say, hey, stop being haters.
Yeah. Speaking of more quarterback play, though, one guy who I was really high on, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. We don't even know what's going on over there right now. They're in scramble mode right now, if you ask me, after taking that brutal loss to the Texans. What do you think is going on with them?
I will be honest. That was not one of the games that made it onto my TV very much today. There were so many games in the morning that I was kind of more interested in.
Yeah.
And I did watch parts of it. It looked like the Texans had a day on special teams.
Yep.
That may come back later in the awards segment. But, I'm looking at the box scores. Trevor Lawrence, he in that game, he finished 27 of 40 for 279 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. The stat line isn't bad. It's not like he's playing awful. The problem is they're not scoring. It appears the red zone is still kind of getting to them. They're not scoring in the red zone. They're not running the ball as effectively as they probably need to be. That's still an issue for them. They did throw 1 interception. They did have 1 fumble. So they had 2 turnovers today. Offensively, I can't imagine. They were my team last week that was minor setback, major comeback, and I expected a bounce back this week. I didn't expect that to take a few weeks.
Texans, I feel like. they have some juice in them now, though, for sure.
Well, and the Texans, to our credit, on the flip side of that, we were talking about as a team that we were actually excited about, despite them being 0-2. There was a lot for Texans fans to look forward to. And I think CJ Stroud is quickly becoming the guy that you could say might be the best quarterback in that class right now. He's outperformed Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson and obviously Will Levis to this point. Will Levis hasn't gotten to play. Bryce and Anthony Richardson were both hurt today.
Out. Yeah.
So, maybe not fair to any of those other three guys, but for CJ, the 3 games he's played, he's looked very good. He looked really, really good today. I think the pairing of him and Will Anderson with, their new head coach, Will Anderson blocked a field goal today.
Yeah,
Huge play.
Crazy.
So the Texans, they're doing a lot of really good things. This was a really big win for them today, I think, in terms of confidence. They played well in their first few games, but they really dominated today in all facets of the game. And, I think it's more of a credit to the Texans than I would say I'm worried about Jacksonville just yet. Although it is concerning that they went 9 points last week, 17 points this week. That's not great. With that offense, we'd like to see more next week.
Was Calvin Ridley playing today? I know he kind of messed up his knee on a catch last week, but
I thought I saw he played, but he got hurt during the game.
Okay.
He did play. He had 3 receptions for 40 yards, but I'm fairly certain during that game he got hurt, and I'm not sure if he came back in the game.
Because I feel like he was the big star that week 1, and then last week, wasn't necessarily. He messed up his knee on the goalpost. I saw.
Yeah.
Don't know if he sat down after that or not, but it feels like they're heavily relying on him on offense to create space for the other dude. So they may have to figure out something that, because that's probably also part with like running back play too. If it's not like too over the top, that's just like average. They're not really worried about them running the ball on them like that too. So
yeah,
we could see a couple wrinkles for them for sure. Another team I want to talk about with you, Bill, bro, the Cowboys. How that injury for the guy Trayvon Diggs, is it hurting them on defense? Do you think after taking that load to the Cardinals?
I would say this couple things. Number one, not having Diggs is not the reason they lost today. That's first and foremost.
That's true.
But to start with Diggs specifically, as much as we talked about him in the offseason and we said, hey, he's maybe not the guy that we prefer, that does not diminish the talent that he is.
That is very true.
And he is extremely talented. I mean, he's as talented as any corner in the league. The style of play he plays at corner is maybe not my cup of tea. However, he's still a guy you'd rather have than not have, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, he creates takeaways, and that's a big thing. As much as he gives up big plays, he creates takeaways. And you can build your defense around a guy like that. And I think the Cowboys, in getting Stephon Gilmore, and having Micah Parsons, were built defensively to allow him to be himself and maximize what Trayvon Diggs does well. And Diggs tearing the ACL in practice this week, I think, dramatically impacts their defense.
I can agree.
Because you kind of had the shutdown guy on one side with Stephon Gilmore, and you had the risk-taking, high floor or high ceiling kind of player on the other side with Micah Parsons, who's just a game wrecker.
Yeah,
in between,
create havoc up front and makes other things.
And then there's all kinds of other players in that defense who are really good at their role. Yeah, I mean, not to be like DeMarcus Lawrence should not be overshadowed either, right? So losing Diggs takes away a major playmaker of their defense, and I do think that impacts the way they'll play because they were built to maximize him. So I think it's going to have a dramatic impact on them moving forward. I do not think it was the reason they lost today. I think today they look like a team that had won their first 2 games very easily. We're feeling themselves a little bit too much, and we're playing an 0-2 team that everyone said is the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And I think they let that as Nick Saban would say, they let the rat poison creep in. And I think that's really more or less what happened today, more than, hey, some schematic thing that happened because they did not have Trayvon Diggs. I really think if you watched parts of that game, which I did, it looked like the Cowboys sleptwalked today.
I will say, too, I feel like they need more weapons on offense, or Dak needs to throw to more people. I've seen him just throw to either CD or Gallup, and CD's the one doing everything for the most part, and everyone else is like hit or miss. They're not really like that guy that's certain. Like if I throw it in there to catch it, you know? I don't know if you noticed that too with them.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that CD is obviously trying to be featured in their offense today. I mean, in fairness, you know, he threw the ball. Gallup had 6 catches for 92 yards today. Dak threw the ball 40 times today. CeeDee Lamb had four catches for 53. Jake Ferguson, tight end, 5 for 48. Rico Dowdle, 3 for 25. Brandon Cooks, 2 for 17. Hunter Lepke, 1 for 12. Peyton Hendershot and Luke Schoonmaker were targeted as well. Hendershot had 1 catch for 3 yards. And then Tony Ballard had 3 catches for a negative yard. But it does feel like a lot of the offense goes through CeeDee Lamb in terms of the passing game, which it should. But I would like to see them get like Brandon Cooks more involved.
Yeah,
you know, they did go to him on a critical 3rd down today, trying to keep that game alive, and they were able to complete the pass. But it does kind of feel like his speed is a little bit underutilized in that offense right now, and I would agree with you that that might help them a little bit more in terms of the target share that you're talking about.
Yeah. I guess it must have just been the string of plays I saw, because I could have sworn he did a lot more than 4 catches.
Yeah, you might have just saw the 4 catches, you know, a couple catches in a row out of the 4.
Yeah. No, I mean, probably another team that could use some more running the ball too. I know they like to use Tony Pollard more as like a back that likes to catch the ball, you know, receiving back, and kind of what they did with Deuce Vaughn last week too, a little bit. Maybe they just got to get between the tackles again, like when they had Zeke, and hopefully that could just create more on the outside. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think they'll be fine.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. They're one of the best defenses out there with a great offense. Just hiccups.
Yeah, Dak did not play well today, which if you're one of those people who's a Dak hater, you're probably celebrating dancing on his grave. But don't bury him yet. But he did not play well. That's for sure.
Last bit of news we got for the week. Your guy from your team, Nick Chubb, we got the news back about his injury. It was just an MCL, not an ACL. And I didn't like the wording on it from Shefty, where he said it's not a career ending. Like you were gonna chalk him up after this year. Like is this his last year on contract or something? Like,
well, I mean, if you saw the replay of it actually happening,
it was bad. It hurt me to watch.
It looked like really bad. I mean, I think a lot of people assumed when they saw it that it was an MCL, ACL, and a dislocated knee. And usually if you get that trifecta, that is so brutal to come back from. And he already in college had the ACL, MCL tear in that same knee. So I think a lot of people were assuming that if that's what it was, that it could be career ending. And there was a lot of speculation, unfair, unwarranted this week that his career was over.
Yeah.
But all it takes is one person on Twitter to say, "Oh my gosh, what if Nick Chubb's career is over?" And then everyone jumps to that conclusion, which I think is what happened to a certain extent. However, they like the reporting today was MCL. They're going to get it fixed. Now the ACL is not torn, but they said there was something about it being damaged, and they may need to repair a small piece of it when they go into to fix the MCL. And so they said they won't really know what that looks like until they get him under the microscope. But good news for Nick Chubb. I mean, by all accounts, one of the best guys in the NFL in terms of people. And the fact that his knee bent the way it did and all he did was tear an MCL, to me, is a testament to the work that guy puts in the offseason, because there's
Yeah.
no way a normal human doesn't absolutely lose their leg on that play the way it turned out. I mean, that's about as brutal a hit to a knee as I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it was definitely gruesome. I know. I think it might have had that warning on X, where right before you watch the video, it's like, "Do you want to watch this?"
Yes,
Because it's bad.
I mean,
And
the only other lower like leg injury in football that I've ever seen that compared was like Alex Smith's injury. Seriously, that's the only one that was about as brutal that I watched happen in a game. I mean, it was brutal for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, speaking of his work ethic in the offseason, like that fool was squatting what, like 600 plus that we seen like before the season. Like he definitely got the leg strength to that makes that the outcome, you know, as opposed to everyone thinking like it's just destroyed, blown up.
And I'm sure he works on his flexibility a lot.
Oh yeah.
So that helps too. So good for Nick Chubb. We're happy that he'll be okay and he'll be back next year. Said his plan is to be back next year. So happy to know that Nick Chubb's going to be good.
Yeah, so speaking of Nick Chubb, as I mentioned, he was on your fantasy team.
Oh, goody.
You're lucky with the rule change last week. You now have Jerome Ford. But
the rule change.
There is a but. There is a but. Your two other running backs are only out. They're not injured for the year. So you have no other running back at the moment. You just got the one.
Oh, I get the backup if a guy's out for the week?
No, bro.
It's only for the year?
Yeah, if they're done, if their thing's done, if their injury takes them out for the year.
What if a guy's out for like 6 weeks?
I mean, I got Cooper Kupp on my bench. He's riding that for now till he gets back, and because he was my original starter, which might hurt me because Tyreek has been balling. So,
all right, well, okay, fair enough.
That being said, you are winning at the moment.
What?
114 to 76, but I have Josh Jacobs currently playing, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown tomorrow, and you still have Jamar Chase.
I got it in the bag, baby.
Very 3-0. Or
wait, 2-1.
You'd be 2-1. Yeah,
2-1.
I got the first week. 2-1
without any running backs.
No, you have one. You got Jerome Ford. He got you 19.1.
Okay, well, Jerome Ford did
well. Exactly. No, so as it stands, JJ, he got you 27 today. Like I mentioned, your guy Jerome Ford, newly to the squad, 19.1. Patty Mahomes with the 25.7, basically.
Nice.
And then for me, CMC was my lead scorer, and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek had 30.7, and I have 22.9 off of Christian McCaffrey. But I still got two dudes, so Jalen Hurts should hopefully get me at least to the 20s, and whatever AJ Brown does tomorrow.
Fair enough. So that was our fantasy football check-in.
Wait, before we leave fantasy football talk, though, I have a question for you.
Okay.
How do you feel about people talking smack over fantasy football?
What do you mean?
So before we hopped on, I got a text from the dude I played, I guess. I'm in a league where I know one dude and the rest are his homies. And so I received the text messages. It's a number I don't know because I clearly didn't care to add anyone's name. Okay. And it said, "Hey, man, sorry I had to do that to you. Luckily, you pay me in 10 weeks. Now, I get it. You're blowing me out of the water at the moment. I think he had 114 to like my 75. But I have 3 dudes yet to play. On top of that, he had Raheem Mostert, who dropped him a cool 45. Yeah, I hate to break it to the guy, but there's no way they're dropping 70 every week where my guy scores 4 touchdowns. He's not getting 45 every week. So if he had Tyreek, that's a different story. But then I look at his bench. Everyone on his bench has like 3 points. Like if he doesn't start Raheem Mostert, I'm literally beating him, and he has nothing to say to me. So it's like you're lucky your team decided to drop 50 extra points on the Broncos.
I mean, I think it's a little weird to talk crap to someone that you don't know. That's a bold move over fantasy football. I mean, fantasy football, I mean, the talk is going to happen regardless. That's just how it goes.
Doubt.
However, again, it's a bold move to do it if you don't know the person. I mean, it's a given if you know everyone, but if you don't know the person, I do think that's a bit of a bold move. I almost feel like there's an unwritten rule that says you don't do that.
I was gonna say that, like, if anything, if you're talking smack about, you're talking about who's taken last or who is in last, and then from there, it plays out. It's only week 3, I got that text and was really confused.
That's a heck of an introduction to be like, "Hey, man, you don't know me. Sorry, I had to do that to you. Pay me my money in 10 weeks." Like,
yeah,
like, wow, all right, dude. I think I get what your deal is. Okay, good for him. I mean,
I was going to respond and be like, yeah, sorry, the Broncos lost by 50, and Raheem Mostert scored 4 touchdowns.
No. That's one where you save it. You don't respond.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought it was weird to begin with.
Very perfect moment to respond to him.
Yeah. In 10 weeks, hopefully we beat him. It's like, dang.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Save it, dude.
No, I definitely had to not respond on that one. But I got that text and was like, all right, bro, for sure. Like, you're commissioner. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, bro, for sure.
Yeah.
That's someone who takes fantasy football way too seriously.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a new segment today. It's called True or False. Joe and I are going to ask each other questions about the NFL, and we're simply going to respond. True or false, and why? Yeah. So the first question for you, Jody.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it.
Is it true that the Bears are the worst team in the NFL?
So the answer is true. Not only do I feel that way, but I did a little research prior to getting on, and they have the worst point differential. Mind you, like I said, the Broncos lost by 50 today. And
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
On top of that, they are tied for second to last in .4. The only team worse than them is the Giants, who have 43, and they're tied with someone else at 47. So, yes, true. And after watching them play the Chiefs today, they don't look like they're getting any better. So,
well, I mean, you saw it all week. It's like their DC resigns. There's all kinds of weird rumors about that, whether the FBI raided his home or whether there were some sexual improprieties or whatever happened with that.
Yeah.
We just know it was weird for the DC to resign 3 weeks into the season. You've got the whole Luke Getsy calling 3 screens in a row, and then Justin Fields kind of talking about, like, maybe it's my play is bad because of the coaches and not so many words in a press conference. I mean, the 0-3 start, the point differential, the inability to score, the fact that they have, a legitimate number 1 receiver who we've seen produce for a number of years, and he's getting no touches in this offense. I mean, they got it mic'd up where my man Devin White goes up to him and is like, "What's up, bro? Blah, blah, blah. Man, they're not using right in this offense." And my dude goes, "Yeah, tell me about it." I mean, it was a dumpster fire of a week for Chicago, culminating in a loss where at one point they were down 41-0 in the middle of the third quarter. So I'm in agreement with you. The Bears right now, that's the worst team in the NFL. And the worst part is, I don't know what their direction is from here. I guess you tank and you draft Caleb Williams and you
move on
trade
from
Justin Fields. I mean, I guess that's what you have to do. The problem is, like, they still don't have an O-line that would protect Caleb Williams. So even if you get him, you may ruin him too.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
They got to figure that out there. I mean, it's not a very. I mean, I'm sure Bears fans has got to be the most frustrated fan base because they thought their team was taking a leap this year.
I was included in that statement as well. But moving forward, I have a question for you. True or false? The Chargers offense is worse with them missing Austin Eckler.
I mean, they were very productive today. But the answer to that question is true. They are worse without him. I think what he provides to them in the passing game is so dynamic, as much as he does in the run game. I mean, he's a really good player. Obviously, there's some weird stuff going on there with, I mean, he still wants a long-term deal that he was not able to secure this offseason. Feels like this could be his last year in LA.
Rightfully so, though. And my God, he's very productive in that offense in terms of receiving and running. So,
yeah, I would say that they were able to win without him, not because they didn't have him. And there's a huge difference there. So, yeah, I would say their offense is significantly worse without Austin Ekeler.
Oh yeah, we'll get back to that later too, for sure. It's definitely on the docket today.
All right, Jody, is it true or false that the Dolphins will get the 1 seed in the AFC?
Now, I really want to say true, but I don't know how I feel about their defense. We've seen them go toe-to-toe with the Chargers week 1, right? They both dropped 30. We've seen them go today, drop 70 on the Broncos, kept them to only 20. But I don't know. I guess, okay, their division's tough. They got the Bills, Jets D is pretty good, and the Patriots have also looked really good on defense, keeping their scores really low. The only thing I would say is I think out of those other teams in the division, the Bills will be one that they could run up the score with, and it's not going to matter what happens on the other side of the ball. And so the rest of their schedule that I was looking at, also pretty easy outside of their own division. So I will say true. With the Ravens being right behind them still, I do see the Ravens being a monster down the road, and it's going to be neck and neck for the race for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the Ravens, with that being said, the Ravens dropped a tough overtime game today to the Colts. That may be the difference in terms of that race. It could come down to that down the road. But, and you can't, I think right now, as kind of wild as this might be to say, I don't think you can count out the Browns either.
They've been doing well on
the Browns defense looks like the best defense in the league right now. I mean, I know everyone was crowning the Cowboys with that title last week. And obviously the 49ers and Philly are always right there. You're right. I mean, at least the last few years. But I think the Browns are about as good a defense as any of those defenses we just mentioned, the way they're playing right now. And they are extremely fast.
Yeah, I will
everywhere
say
across
that
the board.
there's some truth to that statement too. When I was looking at how good their defense is in terms of the rest of the league, like they were up the Browns defense was up there with, as you said, the Eagles and the Niners, and then the Dolphins was somewhere towards the middle, like 15 to 20 area on the depending on where you looked. So yeah, the Browns are definitely, they got a shot. It's just they got to keep pulling. They're going to be the new Vikings, except they actually have a defense, because Deshaun hasn't been putting up big numbers, but they do manage to win.
Quick Sunday Night Football update. Steelers are winning 13-7.
Okay.
They were driving into Raiders territory, but the Raiders just got a huge stop on third down, forced Kenny Pickett to throw away. Looks like the Steelers will punt. About 9 minutes to go in the third quarter now. Max Crosby applying pressure.
Well, speaking of possibly getting in that red zone, my next question for you is, true or false, do you believe watching Red Zone, the channel, is that the best way to watch football on the weekend?
Well, shout out to Chris Boswell for the brand. Man just made a 57-yard kick. Thought they were punting.
Ooh.
They kicked a field goal. They are now up 16-7 on the road in Vegas. But to answer your question, Red Zone. Okay. All right. This is a fun question for me. I think most people, or at least generally anybody I've ever talked to, absolutely loves the Red Zone channel.
I get that. It feeds into the quick, like, attention span. Like, oh, here's this. Oh, you know what? This just happened. Let's show you that. And then they got the quick recap, like, oh, they're in the red zone, but here's how they got there. All the
Yeah.
little details. My bad, didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That was a great synopsis of just why it's so successful, and you're correct on every point I think you made. I think I like understanding the flow of a game and the feel of it. And when you only jump into when a team is in the red zone, you don't really get that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I kind of don't like the red zone channel, actually. I like having the game on the screen and watching a huge chunk of it and then flipping around myself and flipping to a game. And I'm like, oh, this game is close. Let me turn this game on and watch for 15 minutes. So I think I prefer like jumping around that way as opposed to like, let me see one play here, one play there, one play here, one play there.
Yeah.
Now, depending on my mood and what's going on, like sometimes I like to get the 4 box going. Okay. Get 4 games on there. And if I'm not busy working, which right now on a Sunday, I'm always busy working on football stuff.
Yeah.
And breaking down film. So it's hard. I recognize that like, oh, I can't actually really watch all 4 games. Now, if I'm not doing anything, I can watch all 4 games at once and it's good. Yeah, so sometimes if I'm in that mode, I'll turn on red zone because then it kind of gives you a pulse of like where every game is at least. And you just get scores updates without really watching what's happening in the games. And then you can kind of decide, I'm going to take this break right now and watch 15 minutes of this game. I'm going to jump to this game because I heard on red zone that this was a good, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I think it's the coaching part of it. I like watching football to see like concepts and what people are doing and schematic stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's red zone. You kind of miss like a lot of that. So it just depends on what mood I'm in. If I'm in a real mood to watch, then red zone's usually not going to be my go-to actually. Yeah. Which I know I am in the minority on that response.
Yeah. So for me, like on my lunch breaks, I pull out the phone, boom, red zone. Because I don't got time to watch one game and be like, oh, these dudes drove the field, scored a touchdown, and now I got to go back to work. So that right there, it takes the cake for me. But if I'm at home watching, like I would prefer to just sit there and watch one game, like you said, bounce back on my own. But I do see the red zone, like how it works, how that could be people's main mean of watching games. But one last note I want to mention too is when you're watching the red zone, there's times it could be better. Like if say you're watching a 10-minute drive down the field, and it's like, okay, let me see. Oh, this team is kicking a field goal. They just scored a touchdown. Like you missed that, and then you flip to another channel. You go and it's like, oh, they just got the ball off a punt. Like when there's really long downtimes, red zone I feel like it could be better. But overall, I think the experience of watching an individual game, it's just like you said, how you're like watching concepts and stuff. It's just better to watch like, oh, this dude did this, which is how they did that. I don't know. Long story short, I think the red zone is good for quick info, and watching the game is how you get to dissect things.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's time for awards, my friend.
Woohoo!
Week 3 awards. Even though it was blowout city, we got plenty of awards to give, baby. All right.
First award. And we do have a first coming up too that's never been done.
There we go. The first award is maybe not our favorite, but one of our favorites. The Tukwa Gamer of the Week Award. Shout out to our high school head coach. All right. I'm going first here.
All right, sounds good.
You ever see those videos where they're like, so-and-so was a problem, right? And it'll be just like some old school baller. It'd be like, Sean Kemp was a problem, right? And it's just Sean Kemp dunking on people. You could have made a whole Devon A-Chain was a problem video of just clips from today's game. That dude went absolutely insane. It was like, I mean, the rookie, he burst onto the scene today at 18 touches, 18 carries, 203 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 30 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. 4 touchdowns total. The guy had over 230 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
I mean, what a performance from a kid that you and I both loved, Devin Achane. We loved him coming out.
Yep.
From Texas A&M. He was, I believe, my fourth rated back, maybe fifth in the entire draft.
I think you had him fourth. I had him fifth. I didn't like his style of running the ball, but that's another story you can go look at.
Electric speed, though. And
that is true. He is really quick.
With what the Dolphins did, I was like, Mike McDaniel, that's a perfect place for him to go because Mike McDaniel will max that kid out. I just knew he would. And I mean, Mike McDaniel might be the hottest play caller in the league right now. He has to be.
Yeah. So quick side note about this guy, Mike McDaniel. I was scrolling Instagram earlier and I seen it was like a reel where it was like someone took a tweet and then like there was a video attached to it and it said, Mike McDaniel looks like he's running the company while his dad's on vacation for the week. And it's just him wearing like a baggy shirt with some sweats on that are like rolled up to his calf, and he's just bouncing around playing some music, like having fun at practice. The funniest thing ever.
In case you're wondering what the big smile on my face is right now, Jimmy G just threw another pick.
Ooh.
Second of the night. Texted all those fans of those friends of mine that are Raiders fans and said, I just sent him. So they've been telling me that Jimmy G is this major upgrade from Derek Carr. So I just sent him a text that said #upgrade.
Yep. What would they say?
Are you waiting on that? Oh, a couple memes went through. You ever seen the SpongeBob cover himself in sand meme?
Yeah.
that was one of the responses. so they know.
Are these the people you're in your fantasy league with too? Or at least like one or two of them?
Yeah, two of them. Two of the fans I'm talking about are friends from college. Those are two. I mean, probably the two loudest voices that I talk to in terms of Raiders fans, but they're not the only two, but those are the two loudest voices for sure.
I got you. For sure. So did you have more on Achane? My bad.
Achane's just a dog, bro. I mean, performer.
Yeah, dominated.
Gamer.
Yeah, he 51 and like a half points on fantasy. Crazy week. But my gamer of the week, Tukwa gamer of the week for me is going to be Keenan Allen. Ooh. My dude put up basically the Puka numbers from last week, just better. He had 18 catches on 20 targets for 215. And let me tell you, he also threw a touchdown to Mike Williams.
A tutty.
Yeah, one pass, 49 yards, and that tutty there. That dude had like 40-something fantasy points, like 45. He literally, I went back and watched the game, like I said earlier, had to go, brushing up on some things. And a lot of his catches were like a quick 10-yard, which kind of comes out to his average. But then he also had like 3 or 4 of them for like 40, where he like got the run off, and then. But he was doing everything. I will say I feel like his beard gets in the way of him because every time he gets tackled, his helmet goes up because the beard's not on his chin, or the chin strap's not on his chin really, it's just on the beard. And so I thought that was funny watching that every time because it's just. And he also has the Antonio Brown helmet, the old shut. Like, what's this guy doing?
He does. He does.
But yeah, gamer of the week, Keenan Allen throwing for a tutty and getting hella yards.
Way to go. Next award.
Yeah. Dog of the week this week.
Go.
As we talked about one of the blowouts, we got the Chiefs and the sorry, my phone went off. I got confused. Chiefs and the Bears. And some say Travis Kelce. Or Travis Kelce, whichever you prefer, was the dog of the week there. But it was Patty Mahomes for me. He had 24 for 33, 272 yards, 3 tutties, 2 carries for 16 yards. They pulled him in the third at some point. I didn't get to see it, but when I got home, it was the fourth. He wasn't in. And it was mainly because of his toughness. That dude
rolled his ankle a little bit.
Yeah, rolled his ankle again, got someone landed on him. He tweaked it a little bit, limped off at the end of the half, finished the half, limped off, and then came back and still played despite being up 31-0. So Patty Mahomes, dog of the week for the toughness that we always see.
And while we're here, dude, talking about dogs, shout out to Patrick Peterson. My man was the one who just intercepted Jimmy G. Now leads all active players in the NFL in interceptions with 35.
Dang.
That's a real dog right there for sure.
Yeah, for real. That longevity in the corner.
The longevity, bro. For a guy who played corner, now he's played a lot of nickel in the slot. Like Steelers are using him in fun ways too. Yeah. All right, so we got my minor setback for a major comeback. And so far, this award has been cursed because the guys and the teams that I've given this award to have not actually come back yet. Week 1, it was the Bengals and Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And that's only gotten worse. We don't know if Joe's going to play tomorrow on Monday Night Football. If you're a Rams fan, you hope he doesn't. And the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence were just as bad. We talked about that today. Yeah. So this award may be cursed, quite possibly. And I was afraid.
Switch it major setback, minor comeback.
Apparently so. We may have to if it gets to that. And I was afraid to give this award to this guy because I really like this guy and this team. But it's Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And I feel good, though, about breaking the cycle here. That team will bounce back. They're too good. Lamar Jackson's too good. I mean, Lamar didn't even have a bad day. He was pretty good in an overtime loss today. He went 22 for 31, 202 yards, 101 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
So he wasn't necessarily terrible. Their problem was they were 6 for 16 on third down, and they lost 2 fumbles. So turned the ball over too much. And in overtime, they didn't get the call on fourth down that a lot of people, myself included, thought definitely should have been a hook and hold on Zay Flowers. So they didn't call it. They end up losing the game. If they call that, it very well could have gone the other way, and they could have won in it despite a little bit of a subpar performance. So I think minor setback, truly major comeback next week against the Browns.
Yeah, which also we'll see later when I talk about our turnover on downs. But the no cap hats off of the week. We've mentioned it plenty of times today. The Broncos got smoked by 50, 70-20. The 2 running backs for the Dolphins put up 4 total touchdowns each. You could say whatever you want about the game. Tyreek had, another 100-something yards receiving. They almost broke a record for the most yards in a game. They missed it by 9. You could say what you want. They just balled. Team balled. At home, too.
I mean, that whole game was no cap hats off to score 70.
Yeah.
I did have a play to throw in there as well. Yeah. We mentioned it earlier. In the Texans-Jags game, a fullback by the name of Beck returned an 85-yard
I did hear about
kickoff return for a touchdown. Not quite like the big fella return with the Patriots, about 10 years ago, but close enough. The fullback, he's actually pretty fast, speed in the open field. My man scored, got in the end zone. Go watch the play if you haven't seen it because it's like an incredible play. Again, part of the Texans dominating win today. And speaking of dominating, the Steelers have now gone up 23-7.
Ooh, looking nice out there for the boys. The next dudes we would like to recognize, as you talked about the fullback a little bit, people in similar, line of work. The linemen, we got the Strahan Munoz Award. And so since you're talking about the fullback, I'm going to just go, I'm shouting out 2 people who aren't necessarily on the line, but they do similar work. I'm going George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk. I went and watched that game. Because, Thursdays I can't watch. So I watched it on the NFL Plus we talked about. And George Kittle does a lot. Not just in the receiving game a little bit, but his blocks are really good. He's blocking like linebackers for the most part. And they use him just like a regular lineman. He's picking people out. He's really good at getting that second level. And then on pass plays, it's the same thing. He'll turn around and pick up the next dude so his guy could keep running as, he's got plenty of dudes that could blow by people on that team. So, yeah, that for sure. And then Kyle Juszczyk, he's literally, if Kittle's not in and they got the other tight end, Kyle Juszczyk might be in the game too. and same thing. He's on the pools, using them as like a wing, and he also had a run. I mean, granted, that's not what this award's about, but he's been blocking for Christian McCaffrey, and that's just another element to the run game that where you could see these dudes producing.
For sure. On the flip side, the Strahan side,
Yes, sir.
I have a dude for you who was absolutely dominant today. Rashawn Gary from Michigan. In a comeback today, he had 3 sacks.
Ooh.
1, 2, 3, and 4 QB hits. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he did not let Jameis Winston eat a W today. And the best part about it is he spread the love, dude. It didn't matter who was in. Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, Rashawn Gary was hitting him. And it helped. He was a huge reason the Packers got a massive comeback win at home.
Yeah.
Shout out Rashawn Gary for having a day on that Packers D-line.
Hey, yes, sir. We'd love to hear that. Big fellas got to put in the work, whether it's making tackles on one side or, letting their running backs eat on the other with the quarterback not getting touched. But moving forward, we got the Who's Cooking Award. And you sent me that tweet earlier with Russ where the kitchen was on fire. That was hilarious.
Broncos country, let's ride. And it's just in the background, everything is on fire. Now, in fairness to Russ, I don't actually think he's the problem with this Broncos team this year. I think it's that defense. But in the same division, a guy who was really cooking. I mean, we might as well just call him Chef right now.
Ooh,
Chef Herbert.
Chef Herbie.
Chef Herbo, dude. My man went 40 for 47, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns. Helped the Chargers secure a victory to avoid an 0-3 start. Probably saved his head coach's job today. Every time they needed the throw, he made the throw. He was a dog today. My man was absolutely cooking.
And we talked about having a first today. I also wrote same because when I went back and watched that game, the dude was literally cooking. He was picking apart that defense, making sure, his playmakers got the ball. He threw to like everyone. I mean, besides probably his running backs, because as we'll get into real soon, they did not do anything. But for sure, I think there was at least 3 different people who caught a touchdown, not just from him, but I mean like in general as the squad.
Yep.
So, yeah, Justin Herbert was for sure out there whipping up the food.
An honorable mention. He was already your dog of the week, but Keenan Allen also cooking a little bit with his one throw.
Yeah.
But that is a first that we had the same guy cooking.
Like I literally was like, okay, this is my guy. Hopped on, saw you had him. I was like, I'm just gonna roll with it.
We already. It's okay. Consensus is okay on this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's true.
It never
objectively
really
he was cooking.
Yeah.
But now it's my favorite award of the week. Always is.
So we got the Boo Boo Evans Award. The guy that doesn't produce, didn't do much. Probably similar vein of the minor comeback or minor whatever. I can't even speak. Minor setback, major comeback. I got to get it off the tongue. But yeah, similar. Same game. We're sticking with the Chargers. A lot of Chargers talk today. I'm going with a running back, though. We've seen 2 receivers past couple weeks. We're going running back this week. Josh Kelly. Man, so as we talked about with the Austin Eckler question, he went 11 carries for 12 yards. 1 catch, 5 yards. I don't know about you, man. I don't want to dog the NFL, but I think I could get 12 yards on 11 carries, and I'm not fast at all. Not nearly what I was doing in high school. I could get 1 catch for more than 5 yards too. If I got in the open space, I could get upfield. And so when I was watching the game, my dude, he does like to run sideways a lot. He's a more trying to get around the edge and get upfield, not necessarily running downhill. So that's one problem that I seen. But also at the end of the day, they were using him just to block because the stats show you he couldn't do much running the ball, which is also probably part of the reason why our guy Herbert was balling with only 7 incompletions and 400 yards plus. So
Fair.
that's my Boo Boo Evans, Josh Kelly.
Boo Boo Evans award. Not a good one to get.
No.
All right. We're moving on to everyone's favorite segment, the turnover on downs. Turnover on
kicking
downs.
off with that trend that you always see. See, I definitely seen your trend that we're going to be talking about here briefly in college over the weekend too. So I'm really excited to get into that.
For sure. Yeah, so just kind of looking again always at, what trends are happening in the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I noticed showed up today in the Chargers Vikings game, as we mentioned our guy earlier, Justin Herbert, who was cooking. So we can all see that, yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what we're looking at here, you've got obviously this is Mike Williams, I believe, coming in motion, right across the formation. He's going to motion out in front of Donald Parham. And they're gonna run the old school stick combination, right? They're gonna run the sit route. He's gonna run right at this defender here, and Donald Parham's gonna run under him and run to the flat, to the front pylon, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now the Chargers O-line is gonna block zone to the field. They're gonna block zone back where the motion came from. You're gonna see Herbert's first read in this, because this is a true RPO, run pass option, whether you give it to the back or you keep it and throw it. He's get first read is this backer, right? If this backer stays in the box and comes downhill for run, he can pull it, and it's old school, almost it's zone read essentially, because they're going to leave this backside end unblocked, and Herbert knows that. So if he pulls it because this guy stays in the run fit, now he knows he has to get rid of the ball quick, and his next read is this defender, because basically what they've said with doing this motion and playing against this defense is we're going to put this guy in a 2-on-1 situation. He's either going to defend the stick route that runs right at him and leave the flat ball open, or he's going to run to the flat and void the sit route right now, and Herbert can throw it to the sit route in the end zone right now, because we know this defender is responsible for the sit route, this backer inside. He also has to respect run and be part of the run fit. We'll watch it. Both this backer and this DB actually don't play this terribly. They play it almost as well as you could, and yet it's going to result in a touchdown for the Chargers. The unfairness of RPO. A great RPO quarterback will beat great defense 9 times out of 10. So you'll watch what happens. Herbert's going to read it. They get the motion across. Herbert's looking at the backer. That backer's actually sitting down. Now look. It's almost
homie's pulling up quick on the edge.
Yes, it's almost a poor read by Herbert. It's because this backer doesn't come downhill. He's actually sliding to the stick route. However, Herbert, with pressure in his face right now, says, I can get the ball to this flat because this defender sat with the stick route for just a half step too long. And with pressure in his face, gets the ball out sidearm and whips it to Donald Parham. Honestly, the read was almost a give read. However, he's so gifted, and that defender's feet sat for just long enough that it's a touchdown. I mean, that's how good Justin Herbert is. Watch it here. You're going to get the stick route, right? Boom. It occupies Blackman's eyes just long enough, and that backer's getting out here. But if Blackman runs with the out route right now, Herbert can throw the ball right to the stick route, put it on Mike Williams' body, and that backer won't get there. Instead, he sits with the stick. He doesn't want that ball thrown, tries to recover to the out route, but he just can't get there in time. Herbert's too good. Touchdown, Chargers. I mean, seriously, elite stuff there from Herbert in terms of being able to get that throw out. Very, very impressive from the Chargers quarterback. And this is a thing that we're starting to see more and more because it is a cheat code. Goal line RPOs. Goal line RPOs are a bear for linebackers because you have to respect run in goal line situations. But
That's
But you see what happens. I mean, they can still throw the ball for a touchdown. So partly why more teams are going to go, you'll see more defenses play less like true zone coverages in the goal line, and you'll probably see teams blitz and play man against this a lot more because it's really your only solution to defending these kind of plays from offenses.
Yeah, I had a quick question. Herbert went to Oregon, yeah?
He
Am I
did.
tripping on that? Yeah. So I seen that in the Oregon game yesterday where Bo Nix, he read a dude, pulled it, and then was trying to run up to he was gonna try to run it in, kinda saw too many people and he dumped it off to the receiver where it was like not necessarily as clean as this one, but still similar where he had that option because the dude was sitting there in the hook actually. And yeah. So yeah, definitely good trend that I did get to watch elsewhere as well, also from Oregon, which was pretty cool. So second down for this turnover on downs though. Your boy's giving out the bet for the week next week. Now, a quick recap today. We went Chargers Vikings over 51.5. If you were early, you definitely made money on that one today. But if you were a little late, if you were, day late, too late, it was 54.5, I believe. So
day
that's
late,
tough.
$1 short.
Yeah. So we had that one. We also threw out Detroit -4. Come on, son. And
2-0?
yeah, that we'll get to the last one I threw out as well in the bad beat. But the one I threw out as my pick, it hit. So 2-0, as you mentioned. So this next week, there's a lot of ones that look interesting to me. But so we got Detroit -1.5 versus the Packers.
Ooh, that's gonna be an unreal game. That's Thursday Night Football, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Quick week for them boys. Yeah.
Dude.
My next one, you might laugh at this one. Denver -2.5 versus the Bears, as we briefly talked about. One of them's got to win, and I think it's got to be the Broncos because if not, they're in panic mode. They're both in panic mode, actually.
Bad football. Come on.
Yeah. We got Ravens +2.5. If you want more money line versus the Browns. That's going to be a dogfight. Will be fun to watch. Eagles and Commanders over 44.5. I kind of like that. I feel like Eric Bieniemy, they've been cooking it up. Besides today, they got smoked. I know they only had 3 points, I believe. But they've been having a lot of points the other 2 weeks. And then Texans +3 versus the Steelers. I feel like that's doable. I feel like they could pull that one out. But the one I'm going with today, I think that Detroit -1.5 is going to be the guy this week. The Ravens I was feeling that one, but after you brought up that Thursday, I was like, I think them boys will be in a better spot because I'm pretty sure they're at home. So I like that Detroit -1.5 for this week for the fellas.
I think that game is going to be an unbelievably good game. Yeah. The Packers have a lot of confidence. Actually, that's who we're going to talk about on the third down breakdown. Jordan Love completing a 3rd and 10. I'll talk about that right now. But the Packers, they had this comeback victory today. Mm-hmm. They didn't have like all of their best players. No Aaron Jones, no David Bakhtiari, no Jair Alexander.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that one.
Didn't have any of those guys and still managed to win today in a comeback victory. So huge win for the Packers. And part of it was Jordan Love became the man down the stretch. I mean, they always say he is him, all that stuff. So Jordan Love, he was him in the stretch when the Packers needed him to be. Here you are, 8 minutes left in the game. They're down 17-3. It's 3rd and 10 in the red zone. Gotta have it, right?
Yeah.
So on the bottom of this, they're going to go empty. On the bottom of the screen, they're going to run the smash concept. It's kind of more a clear out concept. He's really looking to the 3-man side. Now, to the 3-man side, they're running a variation of what we call dagger or quarters beater, where you're going to run the seam down the middle of the field with your number 3 receiver, and then you're going to run the dig behind it. And on the backside, you kind of run the curl or the sit route. It can become like a converted dig. inside of it, depending on what zone, what you get, and he can kind of follow the other dig and follow behind it. But the Saints are playing like red zone quarters. So this safety has a quarter, right? The corner has a quarter.
Okay.
Here's your flat defender, this nickel corner. Here's your hook defender, this backer right here. Here's your other hook defender to the boundary, your quarters corner, your quarter safety, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you're getting with a 4-man front with the rush, and they're overloaded to one side with the 4-man front. And you watch what happens. Now, instead of actually bringing that guy initially, they're actually going to jam 3 with their other defender who was lined up on the ball, and then he'll delayed rush. And you'll see what happens as it goes.
Good blocking up front.
A great blocking up front for Love, for sure. As it goes, you can kind of see what happens. You can see this corner is occupied by the curl, right? This safety is going to be occupied by the vertical route by Luke Musgrave.
There it is.
Your flat defender is going to sink to the hitch, as he should. This backer who came off to create friction on the number 3 receiver is going to add rush. Now, the hook defender is where it gets a little salty here. He tries to play 3 vertical because he thinks that's where the ball's going. He should come off and play the dig here and pass it through the window to the other hook defender and make it keep running to his buddy. Instead, he sticks on to Luke Musgrave and follows him into the end zone. It leaves the window wide open for Jordan Love to find Jayden Reed. And there it is, first down. Huge, huge play in that game. The Packers would go on to score on 4th and goal on that drive and go for 2. They get it, then eventually get the game-winning touchdown down the road. But you can see that concept that's exactly why it's called Dagger. It's the quarters beater. That's honestly the perfect play call. LaFleur couldn't have called it any better. They occupied that backer. Now, if that backer does his job,
then it's a tough
Jordan
throw.
Love's now got to kind of create and make something happen in the scramble drill probably. But that's also why it's such a hard concept, because that backer, it's hard for him to come off of 3 and see the dig behind it. It gets hidden, and it's hard. Linebackers are not used to having to do that all the time and see that concept. So, great job on the quarters beater. Great throw by Jordan Love. Great play by Jayden Reed to catch the ball and get the first down.
He was in a great spot too. He sat right there, literally right at the sticks, and then just fell backwards, got the first. So great play for them. So 4th down, that's the bad beat for the week. This one, I no other way to chalk it up, but anyone who bet the Cowboys, whether spread or money line, if you're spreading the money line, that's tough because it was -13. But yeah, I mean, they lost to the Cardinals, heavy favorite, as I just mentioned. And it was just, that little, I shouldn't even say shocking. It was more like, as we talked about earlier, just you take the defender, the opponent lightly. And, some things happen down the road where you lose by, I don't know, I think they lost by like 8 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, for anyone who bet on the Cowboys, I feel for you.
Bad beat.
Yes, sir.
Well, we've got the coaches Q&A, our last segment of the night here. And this is Jody's chance to ask me questions from a coach's perspective. What do you got, Joe?
So my first one I have for you is, how would you rank the unbeaten teams left in the league, being the Dolphins, Niners, and then whoever wins tomorrow of the Eagles and Bucks?
Buccaneers. I think right now the most complete team in the league is the Dolphins.
Ooh.
I think you watch their offense right now. They have a great balance of run and pass. They have speed everywhere in their offense. They scored 70 points today without Jalen Waddle.
Mm-hmm.
Without Jalen Waddle, who is arguably their best receiver. I know Tyreek is their best receiver, but sometimes, like on a given game, Jalen Waddle can be the best receiver in a game for them. And they didn't even have that guy today, and they scored 70. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. Their O-line is much better than people expected. Tua is healthy. He's not getting hit right now.
Yeah.
He's playing at an MVP level. Then you flip the script. Last year, their biggest problem was their defense. Their defense looks pretty good. They gave up a lot of yards rushing to the Chargers week 1, and since they have fixed that issue, there was a reason Mike McDaniel in the offseason prioritized getting Vic Fangio to be his defensive coordinator.
That's for sure.
And Fangio, I think there was probably an element of, get back today with the Broncos.
Yeah.
And Fangio got his for sure. That defense also is filled with speed at every level. Some of the upgrades they made after getting Vic Fangio and getting some of these guys in free agency that they brought in trades have paid off big time. They're electric everywhere right now. Yeah. And I think their team speed makes them the most dangerous team in the league right now. So I would rank the Dolphins as my number 1 seed. The biggest thing that would scare me about them is just Tua being healthy and their O-line staying healthy. I think those are the 2 things that scare you a little bit. But as long as those things happen, they're going to be tough to beat. Now, the next team, I would go 49ers. Very close to the Dolphins. Okay. Defensively, they are elite.
One of the best.
At the D-line, linebacker, and DB levels, they are one of the best defenses, if not the best in the league. Offensively, they have one of the best O-lines mixed with one of the best skill groups in the league. And then Brock Purdy just does a good enough job every week of limiting his mistakes, being a point guard and getting the ball to his best players in the best spots. And then the times when things do break down, he is athletic enough and good enough to create in a way that Jimmy G never could. And that's what makes a big difference in their offense now compared to any other quarterback that Shanahan has had since they've been successful there. The Niners would be 2. 3, I'm going to assume the Eagles beat the Buccaneers tomorrow, and I would say that 3 would be the Eagles. Simply because the Eagles have coasted through the first couple weeks, and they're 2-0. They have not played their best football yet, and yet
no, not at all.
They are 2-0, and that's a scary thought for the rest of the league. The Eagles are dangerous. We know they made a Super Bowl run last year. Very easily could be back in it this year. They were the team I picked to win the whole thing. And I think they are right where they need to be despite not playing their best ball. I think they will beat the Buccaneers tomorrow night, and they'll be my 3rd-ranked team.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And, I mean, if the Bucs win by whatever chance that is, I would assume they're the 3rd because the other 2 are far beyond what we think of the Bucs.
Yes.
So
the Bucs have been a pleasant surprise, but I don't expect them to be more than that going forward.
Yeah. No, I agree. So my next question I had for you was which team or teams that has a losing record being, either 0-3 or 1-2, do you think could make some noise down the road and, shake things up?
Well, I mean, I took this to mean varying levels of make some noise, whether that was make the playoffs or make it very difficult on other teams. They're not going to be a pushover kind of team. So I looked at this in both those ways. And I found that the majority of the teams that I think highly of, despite a losing record right now, are in the AFC.
Yeah.
I think the Patriots got a much needed win today. They lost those first 2 games at home, but they lost to the Dolphins and the Eagles, who right now I have as 2 of the 3 best teams in football. So to be fair to the Patriots, I think they've played a relatively tough schedule so far. For them to be 1-2, they're okay. They're okay. The Jaguars, they lost a tough game to the Texans today. Their other loss was to the Chiefs, and they struggled to beat the Colts week 1.
Yeah.
They're by far not playing their best football, but let's not forget that team was like 3-7 last year before they figured it out in the late season and made a run and won the division. Yeah. All right, so I'm not counting them out. Right. The Chargers, also 1-2.
Yeah.
The Chargers might be the most talented team on this list right here. And you know that, and you also know they never quite put it together. But I do think they're going to be a team that people don't want to play, whether they make the playoffs and whether they make the run like that. I'm not sure yet, but they're not a team people want to play.
No.
Last but not least in that category in the AFC, I've got the Bengals. And the Bengals are really all about is Joe Burrow going to be healthy? If Joe Burrow is healthy, we know how good that team is. If he's not, I don't know.
Good luck.
They kind of fall out of this category. And then in the NFC, the only team I came up with, they've been competitive in all three games and just haven't been able to win. It's the Vikings. They're 0-3, but they are a pretty good 0-3 team. They're not going to be a pushover team. I doubt that they tank. I have a very good feeling they'll be the kind of team that the rest of the way they'll go 7-7. They'll end up finishing 7-10, just like we projected.
Yeah,
they'll be in every game.
Yeah,
and they'll make a lot of games tough on other teams.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. The NFC definitely the top stands out and the bottom, also
stands out.
But last one that I got for you, kind of, in line of what the blowout city day is. Do you think there should be a mercy rule? Now, I mean, I know the obvious one is 21 scucking Madden, right? If you don't score 21 points in a row as the other dude does. But the way I was thinking of it was more of 70-20. Should there be a running clock like there is in high school or something, more along that line, not necessarily the game's over, But what do you think?
I think, one, it'll never happen for the following reason. There's too much money that goes into those advertisements for them to shorten the game that way.
Okay.
So it will never happen. But two, if you're asking me just flat out, should there be a mercy rule? Absolutely not. Never. Never. And here is why. There is something as an athlete in terms of learning a tough lesson that has to happen when you are getting beat by that many points and having to stand up and continue playing. I tell the kids I coach all the time, it is not 2K. You can't just turn off the Xbox and rage quit.
That is a true statement.
You are not allowed to do that. And guess what? In life, you are not allowed to do that. Yeah. And I love our sport partly because it reflects life so much.
A lot. Yeah.
And I don't think that changes at the NFL level.
To be learned.
And as a coach, you can use that. Now, trust me, when it's happening, you wish it could just go away. I was in that situation Saturday. It was a rough game. And there was definitely a couple moments where I was like, man, I just want this thing to be over with because it's terrible.
Yeah.
But there's a part of going through that makes you better in the long run. Yeah. And I think we'd miss out on a lot of lessons if there was a mercy rule. I'm probably looking at that from the coaching standpoint. Yeah. I realize, and everyone else is like, dude, it's the NFL. These guys are grown men. They're not learning anything, but I promise you they are.
Yeah.
And those lessons do show up. You hear it all the time when teams go on a run. They're like, hey, this thing happened at this week, and we figured something out.
Yeah.
And so it could be the kind of thing where maybe the Broncos season flips because they had to endure 70-20.
Yeah.
Right? So absolutely not. No mercy rule.
I will say too, that sounds like Dion as well this past weekend where he was like, yeah, they beat us. We got to come back and learn. That's about all we can do.
Yep.
But yeah.
All right, dude.
We made it to the time.
Last one of the day here. The banger of the week. We got the banger of the week.
And it's you this week.
This week's banger, I'm going with the Disney Plus TV show.
Ooh,
now, Joe.
Expanding.
I'm not sure if you're a huge Star Wars guy.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if our listening base is big into Star Wars. However, if you are, if you like Star Wars, this show is an absolute banger. It's called Ahsoka. All right. Now, real huge Star Wars fans who watch like the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels obviously know who Ahsoka is.
Me, I would like some background info.
Yeah. So
I'm not that guy.
If you only watch the movies, basically there is a period of time between episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, in which Anakin Skywalker takes on an apprentice. Okay. Her name is Ahsoka Tano. Okay. Now, she's like a lot like Anakin, like really fierce young kid. He has trouble handling her. It actually helps him mature a lot. She doesn't show up in the movie, and the TV shows actually explain why she never showed up in Revenge of the Sith. She was actually on Mandalore fighting this other battle against Darth Maul, who happens to be alive, actually came back. Whole deal, right?
Okay.
But so this TV show takes place actually like years after episode 6. It's about the same timeline as The Mandalorian, for those of you who watched The Mandalorian. Okay. So it's in about that same timeline after episode 6, before episode 7. And basically it's about her trying to stop what ends up and developing anyway, which is like the First Order and the newer movies. It's like her trying to stop this guy. He's an admiral from the old empire from coming back. But she is a very cool character. And then there's also other characters that are introduced that if you're a fan of the TV shows, like really Star Wars Rebels is a show that they did a few years back. And if you're a fan of that show, there's a lot of the characters from that show. That it was an animated series that they made. This is a live action TV show. So it's kind of cool because you like see these characters you like actually come to life. Rosario Dawson plays Ahsoka Tano, and she is absolutely awesome. She does such a good job. I really like her as an actress, but the show has been an A+. I mean, as good as the first season of The Mandalorian to me. So,
gotcha.
And it also, the cool thing is, one of the things I think people were kind of like bummed about The Mandalorian was not a lot of like Jedis, not a lot of lightsaber stuff going on. This show has a lot of that. Yeah, it's got a lot of Jedi and action, and so it's a good show. The season finale comes on Tuesday this week, so it's
nice.
If you want to watch it, almost the whole season's out. You're talking 30 to 40-minute episodes.
Perfect. How many
think the longest.
What's the last one?
7, I think.
7. So
yeah, so I think it's an 8-episode season, and the longest episode might air closer to 50 minutes. It's like 30. Yeah, so the shortest episode is like 30. The longest one's about 50. So it's a great show though.
Yeah, I definitely know like the logo of it, where it's like she looks like kind of like an Egyptian chick. She's got a little thing on her head.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But yeah, no, I know nothing about Star Wars lore. I just know, you got you watch the second 3 and then the first 3, and that's about all I could tell you. And then all the stuff's coming out now. I'm a casual when it comes to that, but
I'm a Star Wars fan, so I get it all.
Yeah. But this brings us to the time of the day where a guy Ray comes in and takes us out.